All right. Well, good morning, dear ones. We are SOTU, and this is SOTUesday for the 7th day of February with an RU, 2017. And good morning, Adrienne.
Good morning, SOTU.
And how are we today?
Pretty good.
All right.
Pretty damn fine.
So we had a question come in from out west this week, and we thought we would take the opportunity to begin to, what shall we say, layer on the many dynamics of movement that are happening. And we'll only deal with a few of them today, but we will be speaking more and more about the reflections of the, what shall we say, the reality that you are creating, because it is ultimately you that is creating this dynamic of reality. Others would convince you that you are not. Others would convince you that the old ways of being and doing would suffice, but they will not. And so now we come to the subject of the session today, which is, we were asked the question, is it just my imagination, the person that was talking, or are there more light workers working here on the planet? And it depends on what your definition of light worker is, certainly so. If you are talking about beings that are coming from outside of, what shall we say, the known, observed physical dimensions, then we would say, yes, there are light workers in that way that are assisting you in the dynamics of your movement. But just the word, just the label light workers in and of itself is a what shall we say, has a somewhat disempowered sort of connotation to it. And in fact, the truth of the matter is that all of you are moving more and more into the dynamics of your own empowerment, and it is getting comfortable with the new dynamic of responsibility, the new dynamic of movement that is going to bring you to a place where just simply choosing the dynamics of what is considered light shadow as opposed to dark shadow, in that dynamic, that is just a, what shall we say, a convenient and, let us say, adolescent term for the understanding of the duality of nature and the understanding of how your reality reflects in your day-to-day world. So yes, we would say there are more light workers, but that is only because there is an old definition of light workers. In fact, what is happening, the awakening is allowing more and more people to step into give themselves the opportunity of empowerment. You see, there is no defined belief system that is really at play right now other than growth. And so as you continue your journey in this sort of way, you will be given more and more and new and, what shall we say, more ironic opportunities for growth. We do love that word so much these days. So much is ironic in your world. Just look at what has happened recently. The irony is pretty darn incredible. Again, let us just reiterate, yes, there are more light workers, but we would say that, in fact, that is not the direction that earthly humanity needs to grow into. In fact, it is more a situation of utilizing the true dynamics of your empowerment. Understand that light shadow on one hand and dark shadow on the other, or as you would like to define it, so many in your world, good and evil. It's not really about good and evil. That whole dynamic of judgment keeps you from seeing the truth in the whole situation, for there are truth and there is lies in both ends of the paradox. Light shadow is generally incredibly disempowered and incredibly, what shall we say, easily led down what we would call the primrose path.
Yes.
Yes, we like the old expressions. because the body's getting older, so it likes to have those little references to the past. We realize that fully 3/4 of our audience has no clue what that means, but you can look that up if you wish. All right. So let us just say one more thing along these lines. So much of what is going on in your world is, what would we would ask you if you were working personally with us? We would ask you, what are the reflections of your reality now? And we mean in the moment. We mean, this is, we're recording this on Monday, but certainly in the first few days of this week, there's a lot of changes. The tempo is going to pick itself up again, and it will be repeatedly doing that over the next few months. So, Adrian, did you have a question for us?
Well, if I were to summarize for myself and for anybody else, that yes, there is more energy being directed towards, from ourselves and from others, towards this growth. And in a way, when we frame it in the idea of light worker, we're not really...
You're doing a better than. You're
Right.
doing a better than. You're doing a dynamic. You have to understand what the tendency is. It stems to, again, we talk about the dynamic that you exist in a duality, and so many of you are brought up in certain ways that have led to a certain dynamic, a certain way of doing, a certain way of being, and we have often defined it as a situation where some of you in your world are more defined by use as a root energy, a dynamic of caring, of compassion, of altruism, and you tend to be live and let live sorts of people. And then there are those in your world who came up through a dynamic of much more fear, much more need to control their reality, and these are, those that are, what shall we say, seek to control the whole dynamic. So you either create your reality or you allow your reality. And so we would suggest to you that many of you that have been light shadow comes from the dynamic of a root place where you are a being of love, but also you need to own your shadow side. You need to own that other piece of yourself, which actually gives you the empowerment, which actually gives you the courage to, what shall we say, be wrong in the pursuit of what is right.
Yes.
All right.
You got me thinking in several different ways. So
well, that's not our fault.
Well, certainly, though, however you want to frame it, as there's a change going on of great movement forward.
That's absolutely correct, Adrian. There is that. Again, it is all precipitated by that dynamic that asks you the question,
who are you going to be?
Who are you going to be? Who are you going to be as individuals? Who are you going to be as a species? Will you measure yourself by how well the least of you are doing, or will you continue to live in this dynamic of polarity where a very small percentage of you holds a great deal of wealth, a great deal of power? It's kind of entirely up to you. And please understand, so many of you are being led down a primrose path, a path where we would suggest to you it would be most important for you to consider, is there something really threatened? And we do not mean the climate, because the climate is not going to change in a way that's going to wipe you all out in 12 years. In fact, you're all the discoveries, the ones that are especially going to come out in 2017, are going to be life-changing in so many ways. The desire for so many of you to have a reality where somehow free energy is made available, somehow there is a dynamic of movement. You have to understand that simple desire on the part of so many of you is leading to the manifestation of that. And so that is what's in store for you in your future. And so we would suggest to you that many of you are afraid right now. That fear can be turned into excitement about the possibilities of the future rather than incitement to violence. Remember, dear ones, so many of you, and even those of you that consider yourselves light workers, are motivated through a dynamic of hate. How many of you hate Donald Trump and yet you cannot even figure out why? Well, dear ones, that is not the energy that you are being asked to move forward on, but it is showing you, it is reflecting to you a dynamic of choice that is available. Which way will you choose? Will you choose the way of peace, or will you choose the way of violence? Will you allow for those things, those truths that you hold to be self-evident? What is that First Amendment? It's about freedom of speech.
So
Adrienne?
I sort of see this in a way as a possibly two-step process in that
Or a multi-step process.
multi-step. People, from my perspective, people who might consider themselves using that framework of light are yet coming up with expressions emotionally, as you say, of hate.
Yeah,
And
some of them are. I mean, those of you that consider yourselves so enlightened, we would ask yourself, if we were to talk to you about a dynamic, we would ask you, why are you so vehement about this? What is it that threatens you so? All right, we're not going to go any deeper into it this time. We're already at we're already at 12 minutes. All right. All right. We try to keep these under 15, dear ones.
It's a challenge.
And again, there's a lot to cover, but using this opportunity to speak about this, we will, with Adrienne and with some of the others, as some of you may know, having come in contact with them over the years, be putting together a TV show starting on, when are we doing the first one? On Friday.
On this Friday.
And it's going to have the title of Conversations with SOTU. You know, we like redundancy sometimes. And we will be presenting longer dynamics that begin in this sort of way, but basically begins to speak about the work that we do with you is basics from the beginning. And it will be beginning as a half-hour show, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, Adrienne?
It will be about do-it-yourself transformation.
Do-it-yourself. Well, we didn't want to hype it too much. You know.
I do.
All right, well. You can create your own video for that. All right, dear ones, we love you all so very, very much. This has been SOTUesday for the 7th day of February 2017. Hold on to your hats. We love you all so very, very much. And so, from Adrienne and we, send you peace, send you happiness, send you joy.